You know what's going on, so tell us from your perspective, where are we right now with the aftermath of this derailment?
Well, the NTSB released a preliminary report today, and what we know now is the most likely suspect of this derailment was a failed bearing unit in an axle that overheated and basically destroyed the axle. And when the axle failed, of course, the train left the rails. I got to tell you that in the aftermath of that, the first responders, 78 fire departments responded. They did an outstanding job of containing the fire and the damage. I can tell you that both the EPA, the federal EPA, and the state EPA have been there since day one, and they've made remarkable progress in identifying, the near-term, most immediate containment and mitigation, and then a long-term remediation plan. They're working hand in hand with Norfolk Southern to make sure Norfolk Southern understands that they are going to be held fully accountable for this. That control burn that you're talking about, that was the best of a lot of bad alternatives, because some of those tank cars carrying chloride or vinyl chlorine was becoming unstable. Had it exploded organically on its own, it would have sent hazardous chemicals and shrapnel for as wide a range as a mile around. You would have had a lot more damage, possible loss of life, structural damage, and a much worse situation than we've got now. So some good decisions were made up front. Right now, today, as we speak, the EPA is testing, has tested, continues to test. The air has tested good. The water from the municipal source, the village's water system, which is tested by them all the time anyway, has tested good. It's private wells that have to be tested before people should drink out of them, and none of the private well tests have shown any contamination either. So a long way to go, before we're at the finish line. It will be months and years before the residents of that community are going to feel safe in their homes and in their community.
Well, exactly. We've all seen in the media some individuals interviewed who say they don't feel safe. They're not confident because they're not sure it's been tested enough. Do you have any sense of how long it will take before the testing will be done so that you could give the necessary reassurance to all the residents that, okay, it is safe to drink the water, it is safe to breathe the air?
Well, I can tell you that those tests are going on right now. I've drank some of the water. I did drink some of the water there in the village, along with the mayor, along with other officials. Our governor has been there. He has drank the water there in the village. We've gone into people's homes and watched the home air tests being conducted. Look, we're not going to downplay any concerns that residents have when the governor of Ohio, EPA Administrator Michael Regan, and the railroad tell the community that they are going to be there for the long haul, that we are not going to let them suffer without us being there with them. I tell them, let me tell you what the long haul means. You guys, the residents of this community, you're the ones that get to determine what that finish line looks like. We are not going to stop testing and retesting and retesting and validating that this cleanup has been done properly until you say that you're satisfied. That community didn't ask for this problem. It was dumped on top of them. And we have a responsibility to make sure they're made whole again.
Congressman, obviously the priority is making sure that everyone's safe there, they can live there safely, they can drink the water, they can breathe the air. Is it too soon to start asking questions about whether there could have been things done to avoid this problem to begin with? Whether it's the sensors that maybe did not function properly for the bearing that overheated, whether it's notification of that about toxic chemicals going through a community, whether it's cutting back on how much toxic chemicals are shipped around, or should there be EPA regulations imposed?
Well, we're going to be looking at all of those questions that you just asked. We're going to be looking at those questions very, very carefully. The NTSB is into that investigation now. All we know right now is the suspect is a failed bearing housing unit on an axle. Bearings fail for various reasons, but they are digging in deep to the sensors that alerted the train crew, the engineers, that there was a problem. They're going to be looking at what the train crew's response was. And so we're going to be looking at anything and everything to determine how we can make sure something like this never happens again. I have been in touch with the chairman of the Rail Transportation Subcommittee on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee in the House. Both of them, the chair and the vice chair, have told me that they are sitting on go once that NTSB report comes out to begin looking at, are there things we need to do in the regulatory structure to stop something like this from happening again. And of course, you have to consider, were the rules followed in the first place? I mean, did things go wrong that should not have gone wrong?
So finally, just to summarize, from your point of view, there's a lot of work left to be done. And as you say, the residents of East Palestine were not responsible for this. We got to do what we can to take care of them. But from your point of view right now, everybody's doing their job. Norfolk Southern, EPA, the state and federal regulatory agencies, as far as you're getting what support you can.
Well, I've got to admit that there have been some delays in getting the federal agencies here. As you are aware, President Biden has not been here. The Secretary of Transportation just finally showed up today. That's a day late and a dollar short, in my opinion. FEMA initially said doesn't qualify. I wrote a letter to FEMA saying, wait a minute, if this doesn't qualify as a disaster, I don't know what does. You need to come here. They changed their mind. They did decide to come. So you've got FEMA on the ground. You've got HHS and CDC. You've got toxicology experts. We've got a healthcare clinic set up for residents that can go get their healthcare concerns, whether it's themselves or their children, looked at. So a lot of progress has been made, but it could have been handled much better by the administration in the beginning. Only the EPA, the federal EPA, has been here since the very beginning.